This is the 19th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guy Batteries, X Zone Lures, Shoreline Boat and RV Repair, Spro, Gamakatsu, Big Bite Baits, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about crappie fishing for bass anglers. Back to back in studio guests. Yesterday we had Daryl Gleason in as he was getting his new ride rigged for the Bassmaster Open EQs up at the Bass Tank. And this is today's show. Clearly the fame has gone to his head. Zeke Anderson. This is a show that's like 3 years in the making. We've been talking about doing this forever. Zeke, actually, you went to the is that the ophthalmologist?
Optometrist? Yeah, optometrist. Got my eyes dilated.
Yeah.
So, yep, still rocking the sunnies 12 hours later.
But Zeke is one of the best crappie anglers in the nation. Now, that's the truth. That's the honest truth. I said this yesterday. I'll say it again live on air. There's a lot of people who claim to be crappie gurus, aficionados, and experts who learned their craft from this guy right here, even though that name will never be uttered. Fair assessment? Fair statement?
Fair enough.
Okay.
Fair enough.
But
very kind.
This is what I have always wanted to do, Zeke. I've always wanted to do a crappie fishing for bass guy show, because there's like leasing yesterday. We don't hunt. And I even know we got my buddy Juice Newton. Like I said, greatest story ever. He got the nickname in college and we found out it was a female country music star stuck. And he hunts, but everyone likes to crappie fish. Right?
Man, crappie fishing, every fisherman likes to eat crappie, right?
Yeah.
I mean, table fare, it's some of the finest you can catch. And in the tournament off season, which is going on right now, it's a lot of these bass guys love to go out and use their forward-facing sonar and catch these big crappie. Mm-hmm. It's the best time of year. This is my favorite time of year. I mean, today it's going to be sunny and 60 degrees in December, and we're going to go out for a few hours, try to find some giant fish, because this is the time of year to go hunt the giants. You said you don't hunt, but you actually do.
No, you actually do. We're hunting crappie. Now, part of the show is going to be for those who do have the forward-facing sonar, whether it be Garmin, Lariats, Humminbird, whatever your choice. But there are also a lot of anglers that I know that are on here, and I've already seen it in the comments. What if we don't have forward-facing sonar? So a section of this show will also be for those of you who do not have forward-facing sonar, how you too can get out and up the odds on putting a what do they call, like a mess of crappie in the boat during the winter.
Get you a mess of crappie. We can definitely talk about that. I mean, I started crappie fishing seriously probably about 12 years ago, way before forward-facing sonar came out. So we can definitely talk about some spider rigging.
Okay. Yeah. I like it. That's like the original forward-facing sonar is spider rigging, because once I started forward-facing sonar in open water, I was like, oh, it makes sense why the guys catch them spider rigging. It's the same thing. Same thing.
You got 8 rods sticking out the front of your boat or more. Some guys, I mean, up to 16 rods I've seen on the front of these boats. So
I see Clyde. I think that's the same Clyde. We've got like 3 Clydes. That's the same. Yeah. Clyde Glenn, who won the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame auction, is going to come down, and it's going to be January now, and is going to co-host BTL for a day. And then we're going to go crappie fishing. I went last week, struck out, didn't catch anything. So I wanted to make sure he was good to go when it came for crappie fishing based on what Daryl and I did yesterday. Clyde, good to go. I'll get with you as far as booking it in January. They're snapping.
And it should just get better and better from here. I mean, now all the way through the spawn is literally my favorite time to be on the water chasing these things.
All right. Talk a little bit about your history, how you became a crappie guru, what you do for work now, just the whole kind of Zeke Anderson story, because ever since I've known you, you've been kind of the go-to guy for crappie.
I mean, like I said, well, my dad retired about 12 years ago, bought his first boat, and that's we became, I mean, always loved to fish, grew up pond hopping and all that, but never had a boat to start fishing big lakes and big water. Finally got a little boat. It was an old 1995 Bass Tracker, but that's how we got started. And it was me and my dad constantly out there trying to figure things out. As most of you know, you can get on core websites and find a lot of waypoints for brush piles.
Most of us did not know that. Can you?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that something that I need to make a note of? And then once we're done with the Zeke Anderson story, we can go back to?
Yeah. Do that. So that's how we got started, because back then there wasn't even side imaging. Even if there was, we didn't know what we were doing. So we had a little 5-inch Lowrance down imaging unit, and we'd go out, find these waypoints, find brush piles, and throw a buoy on them. And if you don't have forward-facing sonar, if you're not using the little orange buoys or white buoys, whatever color you want to use to mark your brush piles, it makes it a lot more difficult if you don't do it that way. I like to throw the buoys off to the side of the brush piles, not right on top of them. Don't spook the fish. But anyway, so that's how we got started. And we hammered Oologah Lake like you wouldn't believe. I mean, that lake's got more brush in it than probably any lake I've seen in the country. Man-made brush piles and trees up on the north end. So if we weren't brush pile fishing, we were dipping trees. Just as it was a numbers game, as many as I could dip in a day, determine how many fish I caught.
Dipping, just dropping the rod next to the tree, see if there's a crappie down there.
Vertical. Okay. Yep, just vertical fishing. With, at the time, we were using 10-foot rods. So time goes on. We get to where we're catching 200 crappie every time we're going out.
No forward-facing sonar.
No forward-facing sonar.
Okay.
Before it was even available. And it kind of got to the point where, okay, this is fun, but I'm ready to try something else. I was getting to the point where I kind of wanted to, let's go catfishing today. Let's go chase some walleye, And then forward-facing sonar came out, and it changed the whole game. I got real fortunate and was able to get it very early on.
Like, are you cool with talking about that?
Yeah.
How early on? Like, you're talking like 16, 17, right?
Yeah, I was, I mean, I don't know, one of the first people in Oklahoma to have it. Right when it came out. I didn't get it before it came out or anything, but right when it came out, and they were impossible to find and nobody could get their hands on them. I got real lucky and found one, and got it. And I tournament fished before that, before Live Scope came out, forward-facing sonar. And I was always, I'd finish up kind of high, and then I just was inconsistent. It was inconsistent, and it was frustrating to me, but I loved it. I mean, being able to compete whenever you get older in something, growing up in sports and all that. So when Live Scope came out, it really hit this central part of the country first. And I had some friends that also had it. So we all kind of helped each other figure it out and learn how to use it. And then we were discovering things about crappie that we never knew, behaviors and patterns and where they're setting up, why they're setting up, what we learned, we had to throw a lot of stuff out the window. Once we got forward-facing sonar on the boat, but we figured out why spider riggers had always been so successful in the wintertime. It's because these fish move off of structure and into open water, especially the larger fish. So time goes on. I started working for the Bass Tank, spent about 4 years there, a little over 4 years with them, and allowed me to tournament fish, got really into the national level tournament fishing stuff, had some success there.
All crappie.
All crappie.
Yep.
All crappie. There's 7 fish tournaments. We, my partner, my fishing partner and I, Dylan Hackler, you know Dylan, you fish with Dylan.
Yeah. He put me on my PB.
Yeah, that's
At
right.
the time, it was my PB.
Yeah. We set a world record at Grenada Lake in a tournament, weighing in a 2-day total weight of 42.84. And that's 14 fish. And that's a 306 average.
Oh my gosh.
306 average. I mean, just insane. It's been broken now. I got to give this guy credit. Matthew Rogers broke it with staggering. I mean, everybody thought this was going to hold up forever. Dude, he had like, what do you have? 44 pounds.
Oh, like blew it out of the water. It wasn't like 1/100 of a pound where you were
over
like,
a pound. Over a pound. Pound and a quarter. But that's a special lake if you love crappie fishing, Grenada. If you ever get a chance to go out there.
That's like the Falcon Lake of crappie.
It absolutely is. It's the Mecca. But so we had some success in tournaments. Now I'm actually the tournament director and MC for the American Crappie Trail, a national level crappie tournament. And that's been a lot of fun. Been doing that the past year or so. And working with some other companies as well. But it's been a coming from the bass tank and the time that I spent there, I was able to really entrench myself in the industry and learn a ton about the inner workings of the industry and how it works. And it allowed me the latitude to really get my name out there by producing content for the company.
The ACT?
This one I was at the bass tank.
Oh, okay.
I produced a lot of content for them on their YouTube page. And what I've always wanted to do in this industry, I love that I'm getting to do it. I mean, I feel like the luckiest guy alive, but teaching people how to increase their catch rate. That's what is fun to me. Showing people just little nuances they may not even know they're doing. It's kind of funny because, I mean, crappie's a panfish, right?
Right.
It's never been this big thing, but now that we're able to go and pick out the biggest fish in the lake and target and hunt those bigger fish, I'm seeing a lot more bass guys getting into it. And
I know on the bass side, the BTL side, I have a lot of listeners and viewers on the show who will slide into the DMs, who will email me, who will be like, hey, I want to get into this crappie thing. It looks like it's fun. I hear you talk about it all the time. What do I need to do? And you've kind of experienced me growing with it as much. I mean, I'll call you with a bunch of different questions and what about this and that. Like when we go out after the show today, like my biggest weakness now is when the fish are on the bottom. And you're like, oh yeah, that's your next evolution in crappie fishing is being able to pick those suckers off when they're belly on the bottom, when they're not high in the water column active.
And that's the toughest part of using forward facing sonar is recognizing those bottom fish because they blend in and you don't always know it's a fish, but you see little bumps. And I mean, I have dropped on fish on buried in the mud. And I mean, literally you pull them up, they got mud on their bellies and they look small until they see your bait and come up off the bottom. And then your heart just starts pumping and it's a 3-pounder, but you can't tell when they're on the bottom. You can't really size them up well.
All right, let's organize this show because we got a lot of stuff that we have to cover here. You have to understand, you have to treat everything like you're dealing with me. So you have to start from the basic level because in the bass world, what's going on in the crappie world, specifically in the colder months of the year, December, January, February, March. And let's put this, first of all, what we're talking, I don't even know what you want to talk about, but it's kind of is it a Midwest like deal that we're looking at? Like, where does this work in the country?
Oh,
in the winter
anywhere. Typically,
you see what I mean? Like it's different. Like if you're in South Florida or you're in NorCal or
you can take Florida and just it's its own.
Okay, sorry, Florida guys.
Yeah, I mean,
Go
guys,
listen to Zeke's show if
fish,
you want to learn about how to catch them in Florida.
Yeah, fish grass. I mean, fish
okay.
grass, fish
but
lilies.
We're talking like kind of the middle
of the country.
Middle of the country.
Yeah, for Louisiana, Mississippi, even Georgia,
Illinois, Kansas, Oklahoma,
Kansas.
Texas, all that.
Yep, all that. This pattern's going to hold pretty true.
Yep, and anywhere else in the country up north is frozen. You ain't going to be able to go out on the open water and do it anyway.
No, you want to ice fish?
Okay,
more power to you.
Okay,
but yeah, so right now, these fish are still transitioning a little bit depending on your water temp and where you live. So that your southern states, this pattern will pick up and get better. Where we're at, they're pretty well transitioned at this point. Water temps around in the mid 40s, give or take here. So what we like to do, Matt and I both like to do, is go chase them in open water. We talked about these open water fish. They move off of the brush piles, off of the trees, the structure, and really go to the river channels. Right now, if I'm on a big lake, Eufaula, use Eufaula for example, I'm really focusing on the mouths of the secondary channels, river channels, creek channels going off the main river channel. That's where they're starting to stack up. If you have a fishery, this is kind of the anomaly between white crappie and black crappie. Okay. If you have a fishery that's primarily got black crappie in it, this time of year, they're moving up the rivers and into the creeks.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I won't say my favorite lake to go fish and do this because it would make a lot of my friends mad, I'm sure. But it's a black crappie fishery, and
the whites will stay out. The white crappie will stay out more
for the most part.
Okay.
Not that
that makes a lot of sense. That's why I haven't scoped a lot of black crappie in the lakes that have like a Eufaula.
Eufaula
mix, but more so like
so white crappie.
More so white crappie, but there's a huge population of black crappie, and Eufaula.
Huge. Well. It's just not that part of the lake that we fish.
Yep, I got you.
By the dam, that clear water.
Yep.
Typically, black crappie are found. I don't know why this is. Typically, clear water lakes hold more population of black crappie.
Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to get you off on a tangent there.
Yeah, I kind of went into a white crappie, black crappie.
Yeah, no, I mean we're going to be doing that a lot.
Yeah,
today, so
open water fishing, and
mouths of creeks is where you were talking about.
Mouths of creeks.
Kind of wanting to start your.
Yeah, that's where I'm looking for them right now, and they will proceed to move out into the main river channel as wintertime goes along, all the way until March. Then they'll start moving into their spawning grounds and setting up to spawn. Now, that being said, you can always find crappie on brush, on trees, all year long. You can go, like, if you don't have forward-facing sonar and you don't want to go chase them in open water, spider rigging, you can still go fish your brush piles and catch fish.
Same ones that you bass fish in May, June, July, and August?
For sure.
Really?
For sure. And there, the key to brush pile fishing is to have a lot of options. Because just because you land on them, you find a brush pile that's loaded with fish. You're looking at your down imaging, side imaging, you're seeing dots all over it. It's loaded with fish. They may not want to cooperate. It's the biggest mistake I see people make in crappie fishing is they beg them to bite. An old timer taught me years ago, don't beg them to bite. A guy named Mark McGuire. He's a legend on Lake Eufaula for crappie fishing. So have a lot of options, but also have options in different depths because they will move with that water temp changing. They're just like us, like bass. I'm sure they want to be comfortable. And so they will change that depth.
This is a good time to talk about the core website brush piles we'll just knock brush piles out. Yeah.
It's been a lot of years since I've done this, but if you just Google whatever core website for, just use Oologah Lake, for example, because they do brush pile days. The Corps does. Volunteers come out. I've done it. Go out there and set tons of brush piles. All those waypoints are public knowledge and listed on the Corps' website. So I'm sure that there's a way for somebody smarter than me, more computer savvy than me, to download them, put them on a chip, and plug them right into your unit.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the day, I was taking pictures of them with my phone and hand
Yep.
programming them in.
If your favorite lake, if you're like, well, I don't have any brush here.
Yeah.
You can go on the internet. You can see if your state has a registry of where, like in Oklahoma, if you want to legally sink brush, you technically have to let the state know, right?
Technically.
And then they make a registry of that. But all those, like Table Rock, I just got back from Table Rock.
Mm-hmm.
There's a list of thousands of brush piles that they've dropped on Table Rock, all these different lakes. So if you're looking, just be like, well, I don't have a lot of brush. You can just go boom, plug 10 of those suckers in on the lake that you're going to and go drop on them.
Absolutely. And when we were getting into it, my dad and I, having that at our disposal was huge to not get frustrated, because
you're around productive water immediately,
immediately,
especially if you don't have the forward facing sonar.
Exactly.
And we're kind of bouncing back right now between whether you have it or not, but
yeah, we'll kind of talk both ways. It's funny because that's all we did pre forward facing sonar was brush pile fish. That is all we did. That and dip trees. I don't brush
pile fish at all when it's cold.
Never.
Like right now, I avoid trees and I avoid brush piles.
Absolutely. And the reason that I love to go chase these open water fish, like I said earlier, there's still fish on brush piles and on trees, but these larger crappie that we're chasing, they're not as scared
because nothing's going to come from
getting eaten
beneath them and eat them because they get too big.
Yeah, if they're, we're looking for 2 to 3 pound fish. Now, can a flathead or a bass eat a 2 or 3 pound crappie? For sure, we know that, but they're just not as nervous. It's a tougher meal. So they will move out in this open water, and the biggest fish I catch all year is from now till through March.
Yeah.
They're really starting to fatten up, and summertime crappie get real blade skinny, real skinny. So right now they're healthy, they're big shouldered. A lot of times you'll catch them with shad, tails hanging out of their throats.
Big shad.
Yeah.
All right, this is the part where I want you to go into. You're a bass guy. You've got forward-facing sonar. You fish tournaments. You have the tools at your disposal. It is now early December. This is where you can be like, yeah, I think I'm going to do this instead of deer hunt once you figure it out.
You want me to talk about the equipment that?
Yeah, just the whole deal. Whatever you're comfortable talking about. Like, sure. I know there's some trade secrets here that you have to earn. You know what I mean? Like, I'm all about that. You can't give away the farm here, but you can put people on fish. So bass guys like me can go out and catch a few and be like, dude, that was freaking awesome.
Absolutely. And I've got a real close bass friend, old high school friend, Kyle Cordiana. And Kyle.
Yep.
He loves crappie fishing. And he and I do it 2 different ways. He likes casting to them. My recommendation for any bass guy that's just wanting to get started in this crappie stuff with forward-facing sonar, get you a 12-foot rod. I love Huckabee rods. Those are the rods I use, power crappie. You've probably seen them out on the lakes, big red rods. But start with a 12-footer, max 14. Don't go get you an 18-foot rod because they're starting to get crazy with rods. So get you a long rod, get you a handful. I love these Cyclops jigs.
Hold on, let's go back to rods. What do you use?
Todd Huckabee rods, power crappie.
Power crappie?
Power crappie, yeah.
I'm going to pull up a couple options here.
Yeah.
Is that
the 14.
Feel the thump.
Feel the thump. And I love their 12-foot rod.
Power crappie, shop crappie rods.
Yeah.
So here's the cool thing about it. I'm going to pull up a couple different ones. I'm going to start with this one that you're talking about. I know this kind of grinds the show to a halt, but this is the stuff that we need.
Yeah.
That people need. Okay, there it is. There are a bunch of different rods on here, like dipping sticks. You like, what did you say your favorite one is? The Trident?
I love the Trident. That's a 13-foot.
Is that a great starting rod
It's a great starting rod.
So there it is under the Todd Huckabee rods. There's the 13. It's a 3-piece rod, 14-foot long. Now, I also want to go over to the crappie tank rod that Denali has. That's what I use primarily. they're called the Ultimate Live Scope rod here. They have a 12 and a 14-foot version of that rod too. I like both of those. Those are currently on sale for $89.99, normal $150 rods at Denali Fishing. So there's two good options. Huckabee's, let me think. He's kind of like the KVD of the crappie world.
He is.
Is that a fair assessment in the tournament game? Like, he's probably the most well-known guy that's been around. Is that just because he's in Oklahoma?
Around here. I mean, you've got Ronnie Capps and Steve Coleman is the most legendary crappie fishing team in the history of crappie fishing, the winningest team financially. There's not a lot of money in tournament crappie fishing.
It's more for bragging rights.
It's more for bragging rights.
All right. So we're going to get this long rod. And we're using our forward facing sonar.
Yeah. So
you're $100 in. So talk about talk about what setup you need. Just real down and dirty, because basically what I do is I take a bass reel straight off of my box and I slap it on that 14-foot rod. Sure.
Which the reel does not matter.
Bait caster.
Yeah. I prefer bait casters on my long rods. Easier for me to control my depth with them. But the reel, I mean, I've got friends that fished very successfully on the national trails that use little $15 1-to-1 ratio, like fly fishing reels almost from Walmart. The rod is what really is going to boat the fish. Because when you're using these long rods, if you think about it, you're targeting fish that are anywhere from 2 foot under the surface to, up down to 20 foot maybe. And if you've got a 14, 15 foot rod, then you're not reeling these fish in. I'm grabbing the line and just boat flipping them. And that's why I like both of the rods we're talking about, Huckabee and these Denali rods. They are perfectly capable of boat flipping.
A lot of backbone on them. They're not whippy. They're not like a old crappie rod that you used to see that you could go like this and it goes whoosh,
exactly.
Whoosh. These things are what I explain them as is the mat punching rods of the crappie world.
Yeah, sure. Good assessment. Very good assessment.
Fast tip, massive backbone.
Get the fish in the boat.
Okay. Line. You always go straight braid.
Nope.
No.
No.
Whoa. Okay.
So it's. I was thinking about this when I was driving here this morning. Crappie fishing has evolved because 3 years ago, straight braid. That's all I used on my long rods, my dipping rods. Now I'm a fluorocarbon guy.
Oh, wow.
In this open water.
Okay.
The reason being, when I made the switch to fluorocarbon about a year ago, maybe a year and a half, and braid is like dragging a rope through the water, and you've got to be very precise with your bait placement a lot of days. So the quicker I can get my bait right on that fish's nose, the better chance I've got to catch him. With braid, it's dragging it through and it's moving real slow. Fluorocarbon cuts through the water so much easier and faster. So you can really get that bait on that fish that much quicker. So that's why I switched fluorocarbon. I use what do I have on? I think I've got 17-pound
heavy fluorocarbon.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
On a 16th and 8th ounce jig.
Yep. 32nd ounce jig even.
But you can also use like 15-pound braid, 20-pound
absolutely
braid, 30-pound braid.
And that's the difference. If I'm open water fishing, I'm using fluorocarbon. If I'm brush pile or tree fishing, I'm using braid.
Okay.
With braid, you get hung up. You can typically just pull and straighten the hook out and not even break off and keep on fishing.
So we're $120 in. You've got a bass reel with bass line.
Cheap
that
reel.
Is on $100 to $150 crappie rod.
Mm-hmm.
And you're using your electronics for bass.
Yeah, you're using your same stuff. So, I mean, next you really just got to get some jigs, some baits. A lot of guys use minnows, which is perfectly acceptable in the crappie world.
Not frowned upon.
Not frowned upon. I don't. The last time I bought minnows was at the national championship. I hate using them. I'll be honest. But I was like, it's a national championship. They're allowed. So I'm going to have them in the boat just in case. Well, I killed them all. They were all 100% dead. So right back to jigs, but there's a ton of jig options. These Cyclops jigs, I love. Good, solid mustad hooks. The shape of the head and the wire bait keeper. I prefer a wire bait keeper. It's a lot thinner. You don't tear up your plastic baits as much with the little wire keeper.
I'll pull those up. Cyclops, CYCLOPS jigs.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, it's got an eye. Oh, Cyclops. I get it.
Cyclops, single eye.
I get it.
Yeah. It's a little different jig style. He puts the eye on the bottom of the jig. Mm-hmm. So when the fish is under it, looks, the idea is it mimics
the eye.
It mimics like, a dying fish.
This must be a dying shad.
Yeah. So little tiny hair jigs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can see that, but
yeah, it's very tiny.
That's 32nd ounce hair jig. So what I'll do is I'll put, if I got a fish this small, that'll be on the bottom. And then about 8 inches above it, I use a sliding weight system. So I put a bobber stop on, and then a egg sinker, and then another bobber stop.
Mm-hmm.
So
like Carolina rig egg sinker.
Exactly.
Like a 1/4 ounce.
Yep. 1/4 ounce is exactly what I use.
Now, so you could take a 1/4 ounce tungsten bass weight.
Yep.
Like for
sure.
Texas rig, and do bobber stop, 1/4 ounce to flipping weight, bobber stop.
Yep.
So now you still haven't had to buy anything else.
I know.
Okay.
Hey, except for some jigs, but
well, yeah, I want to get through the jigs because on my end, I throw a lot of Kitex, and I can also go and soft paddle tail little bitty and Demiki rigs, and I can also my crappie box. I use the Demiki jig heads with a little 1 size 1 hook, 1/8 ounce, 1/4 ounce, and I'm literally using the same ones that I just Demiki rigged on Table Rock 2 weeks ago are what are tied onto my crappie baits, and I bought 4 packs of plastic baits for $3 each. So now I'm $12 in, and I've got the same baits. Wait, everything is the same. But that's, like I said, you're a crappie guy. I'm a bass guy. I'm kind of tailoring it to the bass, but
for sure,
I also have a crappie box of. I've spent a lot of money on crappies.
It's a good looking box.
But I'm just
actually
saying you don't have to. If this is crappie fishing for bass guys, you're $100 rod in, and the rest of the stuff you got in your boat.
There's a reason that I historically have not taken on jig sponsors and line sponsors, things like that, because what I tell people is I can spend $100 a year online, $100 a year on jigs, and have everything I need.
But those Cyclops jigs are good. There's a bunch of Juice Newton, Jarrett, is jumping in the boat with us today. You know, he started tying his own jigs a year ago.
And did he? I didn't even know.
Oh, I'm sure he'll bring them. He'll be trying to pawn those suckers off on you all day. He'll be like, oh, look at this one. It's made from X. You know, this is made from polar bear fur from the last wild polar bear. It's hollow fur, so it floats it vertical. Like we're gonna go in the weeds on this one.
I love it.
But here's the other thing: you can also go into you can also get on Omnia or go into any of your local tackle stores and buy a little pack of 1/8 ounce white marabou jigs that are 30 cents each with the gold hook in it. And I used those for the first year. Yeah. And caught the crap out of them.
My dad still uses them. He loves them.
Just trim the tail down if they're finicky, or keep it big flowing tail if they're aggressive.
If it starts coming unwrapped, get your super glue out and glue it back up.
But anyway, as a whole, jig wise,
it's about the hook to me.
Right. Okay.
The hook is the important part of the jig.
What's important about the hook?
The strength of it.
Okay.
You know those gold hooks, gold Aberdeens, and the little marabou jigs we were talking about. Those are just they're inexpensive because of the quality of the hook is not very good. As a tournament angler, I am super anal about the hooks. I've had hooks break on me on hook sets. You don't want a real thick wire gauge hook because it's harder to bury them in the bone of the mouth, the roof of the mouth there. So these are mustad hooks, which is my preference, a light wire and really, really strong. These things are plenty strong enough to boat flip 3.5 pound fish.
Okay. I just pulled up the Big Bite Bait swimmer head
Okay.
that I like that has that kind of cone.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I end up doing on the little plastic on this back keeper, I'll like work it back and forth to break off the back keeper because it has 2 wire keepers on it.
Yep.
And then I'll just pinch the front keeper in a little bit more, and that way you can slide a crappie plastic up on it. I like the 1/4 and the 3/16 ounce on that swimmer head. It's got a bigger hook on it. It's a 3/0 in all the sizes, but when I'm dropping vertically on it and we're fishing for those giants, I don't think it matters because I'm using typically on that a 3-inch plastic.
Yeah. Yeah. So typically, I mean, I want to use the biggest bait I can get away with using. The biggest jig they're going to hit, the heaviest jig they're going to hit. So I'll usually start with a 1/4 ounce jig with a 3-inch plastic on it.
Yep.
And if you got big bite up. Yeah. Are they still making my favorite crappie jig bait? It's the baby version of the
Swim On.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
That is my favorite plastic. I don't know why, but fish love this thing. They absolutely love it.
The 2.75 inch version.
Yeah.
Not the 2. The 2.5 is tiny. There it is right there. The Kamikaze Swim On in the 2.75 inch version. Now, what colors? Because this is super easy right here. So right now you've got a couple. You might even have the jig heads, but a couple packs of jig heads with a smaller hook on it, and these 2.75. They're $2.89 a pack. What color are you going with?
So there's white and chartreuse, I think, if I remember correctly.
Pearl chartreuse tail.
There you go. Yeah, I don't know what they call their colors. Yep. So that is my number one go-to. It's this setup right here in the hair jig. Pink head, white body, chartreuse tail.
Okay.
That's what I always start with. But my favorite color, which is crazy, I thought it would be the worst one, and I don't even know if they still make it, the green.
Yeah.
I know.
What's it?
It was green and chartreuse, I think. I've still got some. They may not make that color because when I first.
But anyway, like ugly green, like what color?
Ugly green.
Ugly green and chartreuse.
I called it the Hulk.
Okay.
And I mean, I'd be in a tournament and nothing else was working. I would drop the Hulk on them, and I mean, it was Hulk smash almost every time. It was the wildest thing.
If you guys have actual like Damiki baits, those work great too.
Absolutely.
The swim-ons work great. There's a bunch of different, any little shad style plastic, 3 inches or smaller, whether you're using it for bass or it's designed for crappie, you will catch the crappie on it.
Absolutely. I mean, there's days the crappie are super aggressive and then days they're finicky, just like bass.
Yep.
And whenever they're aggressive, it doesn't matter what you put in front of them, obviously. When they're finicky, that's when having size options is really going to help you.
And I'm going to be honest with you, Zeke. When they're finicky, as a bass guy, I'm probably not going to go fish for them.
I understand.
I'm going to get out on the water. I'm going to make a couple passes. I'm going to drop on some fish, and I'm going to go not the day to day.
Yeah, makes sense.
Because I'm not angry at them like you are.
Yeah.
And most bass guys aren't. They want to go out and they don't want to have to work.
They want to catch them.
They want to catch them.
Yeah.
We're giving them the catch them setup. Like I said, you got a podcast over on Facebook, American Crappie Trail.
No, it's called Crappie Catching.
Crappie Catching
on Facebook.
You want to get into the weeds? That's
follow me. Follow me there.
You're losing people at 32nd ounce.
Gotcha. Get your big setups. Yeah. Get your big setups and go catch them.
2 and 3/4 inch, 3-inch plastic.
Yep. Quarter ounce jig head.
So you're putting a 1/4 ounce weight above a 1/4 ounce jig head.
Absolutely.
Too. So you've got a 1/2 ounce on here.
I want to get it down there quick.
Big giant Bubba setup that we're using.
Yep.
With 17-pound fluoro or 20 to 30-pound braid.
Absolutely. And the reason I use the heavier fluoro is
to see it.
I want to boat flip them.
Yeah, okay.
I don't want to have to worry about, not that 10-pound can't do it. I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
But I just don't want to have to worry about it. And crappie are not line shy. We've learned they're not line shy. So
okay, we've got our basic setup. We're $150 in.
It's not bad.
No, it's fantastic. That's like one of these days.
I know, that's so wild.
We know that it's the cold time of the year. The water temps in the 40s in the middle part of the country. This goes on what percentage of lakes, because I know it doesn't happen on some, it happens on others. It's better on some, it's better on others, but there's a good chance that there is a portion of the lake that you live on or consider your home lake that you can go out and do about what you're about to describe.
For sure. I mean, I would say 80% of the lakes, any lake that has white crappie in it, this is a white crappie behavior moving out into the main river channels of the lakes. And the reason they're moving out there is they're following bait. I mean, the shad, what I saw about a week ago on Eufaula, shad were 25 foot down in the river channel. And so the crappie were suspended up above them. It was easy pickings. And
when you say river channel, you're out in the middle of nowhere. It looks like you're watching bass live on Lake St. Clair.
Literally, dude, middle of nowhere.
You're not saying, hey, there's trees here. You're not saying, hey, there's a underwater thing here. You are over open water. It feels very uncomfortable at first, and you're just in the abyss.
Absolutely.
With your forward facing sonar on.
Yep. And you got your maps up front. I know you got bass guys. Love your maps.
Love them.
7 screens up on the front of the boat, but keep your maps up and just stay in that river channel. Now there's days that you can go out and do this and put limits in the boat in a hurry as you get better at targeting. But then there's other days that you go out and you might have to go 50 yards between fish. The keys are figuring out where they're setting up that day, but you can always go out in the river channel, put your forward face sonar down and go.
And this is why it is very beneficial for bass anglers as we continue to move into the age of technology and information and live scope, because the way you target these crappie requires precision understanding of boat positioning and of reading the fish behavior on your unit and close quarters and literally putting a jig in something that's the size of the top of my coffee cup.
That's it.
So brief settings, how far out you are and what a fish looks like. Like I said, you're dealing with bass guys here.
Yeah.
Not crappie guys. I know this is like 101 stuff.
I get it. The number one key, I guess, is recognizing what's a crappie on the screen, right? Now, bass guys typically range out 100 foot on their forward-facing sonar, maybe further. Crappie guys are typically at 30 foot. So what I do is I set my graph at 50 to 60 foot out while I'm searching, and I'm looking for a big round return. Bass, for some reason, they get taller the further out they are. Crappie stay rounder. So I'm looking for that big round, silver dollar on the screen. And as I'm approaching it, getting closer to it, I'm dialing my distance back on my screen. When I'm actually dropping on fish, I want to be set at 30 foot is my go-to preference. Now, there's been a lot of evolution in the crappie world over the past couple of years. Good time talking about brakes, boat control.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Like Matt was saying, boat control and boat positioning is huge to really efficiently target these fish. And that takes practice and time on the water. I wish there was a shortcut to just, boom, I've got some magical tip, but you got to spend some time on the trolling motor staring at the screen. So what crappie guys are doing now is putting trolling motors on the back of the boat. We call them brakes. Power brakes is what I use.
Pull it up now.
Yeah. That way, I've got my transducers on my trolling motor. I no longer have to spin my front trolling motor around backwards to stop the boat. When you do that, you're getting off target. You're potentially backwashing the fish, spooking it. So we've got 2 trolling motors now on the back of the boat, power brakes, and so that's 20, 22 foot behind you. You're not spooking near as many fish, and you're not having to get off target.
So these are miniature trolling motors that attach to your power poles that you hit a button and you stop like car brakes.
Yeah.
Why are these not on every boat on the Elite Series? And
they will be, as more and more guys in the bass world start figuring out live scope and really its capabilities for bass, then everyone will figure out that having these brakes on the back of your boat is crucial. You don't see a crappie tournament angler anymore without them. You find me?
Yeah. God, I really don't want to be showing this Zeke.
We're gonna get Mattisette. He'll be the first bass guy out there rocking some brakes. Wait till you'll get made fun of. It's gonna be funny.
Why will I get made fun of?
Oh, dude! Every time I'm at a boat ramp and a bass guy pulls up on me to launch,
yeah,
they're like, "What in the heck is on the back of your boat?"
Does it affect? Can I still use my power poles?
Absolutely.
Doesn't affect it at all.
You can still use drift paddles if you want.
Am I more likely to hit these on the bottom and stuff in shallow water while I fish?
No.
So there's no downside to them.
No. I mean, the battery draw is very minimal. They're just 12-volt trolling motors.
And it's less than 2K.
I think they're right at 2K around. Oh yeah, they're on sale right now. Holiday sale. They're normally, I think, $19.99 for a set.
So we're done showing that. Yeah, we'll have to talk afterwards, because that I could see being extremely advantageous. It's like, even if you're just brush pile fishing on any lake and you roll up, instead of you having to spin and stuff, like, you could be scoping 100 foot out and be like, oh, there's a pile. And then instead of either drifting over it and not hitting it, especially as shy as these fish are getting now to certain sounds because of the forward-facing sonar, you could just hit the brakes.
Yep. So check this out. He just figured out this. He calls it the nudge feature with it, so you've got a foot pedal up front to back you up and stop you, and now we've got a second foot pedal stomp switch up there to bump you forward. Mm-hmm. So if you're open water fishing, you're gonna love this, dude. I can't wait to get him on your boat, because you're going to have an absolute blast with it. Say that fish, I get to where it's 20, 30 foot out, and I really don't want to spook this fish. I don't even want to hit my front trolling motor to move me forward. I can now use my back trolling motors to bump me forward.
Yeah, Nick brought up a deal too. What if you're going with the wind? Can you hit them that'll actually slow you down? So instead of drifting Mach 9 over the stuff, you can actually slow it down.
You can fish with the wind with these things.
Really?
Yep. No more having to. I mean, you've done it 100 times.
And then you bind them, and then you keep.
You got to flip the boat around, let your back in,
pivot back, and then come back up to the fish. And like yesterday with Gleason, we were out there, and he's like, "That's a big one." I'm like, "Yeah, that's a good one." And I said, "Hold on, we're 5 minutes away." And he's like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Well, I have to keep the fish here. I'm coming up on it. I have it set at 50. I'm getting it to 30. My little wiggly finger here's the fish. My pen is the boat. You have to stay with it. You let it go under. Then you spin all your unit around. You stay with it. You go like that. And then you drift back. And then you have to go and get all the way back, and then stay with that fish, and then hope that fish doesn't decide to go like that, to where then you have to back up, and it's a pain in the butt."
Yeah. So that's what brakes does for you. I mean, it eliminates all of that. It just makes boat control that much easier, especially for guys who are getting started in it. I know, yeah, they're a little bit. I mean, we're no longer in that $150 range.
Yeah, no, yeah, we're done with the so, and we talked about what you're looking for. You're recognizing them. So the next step to get back on track is, this is where the long rod comes into play. Why you're using a 12, 14, 15-foot rod. Yeah,
so we started out using 10-foot rods, and then once forward-facing sonar came out, we started figuring out, some days these fish are just spooky. You just want to keep them away from the boat. So the longer rod you use, the further away from the boat you can keep them. Some days they don't spook at all. Some days I got to pull out an 18-foot rod. And I don't like fishing like that. I'm kind of like a bass guy in this regard. I'll use an 18-footer in a tournament setting when I have to. But if I go out fun fishing and I got to use an 18-footer, I go home.
Yeah.
It's just not. These rods are so long. They get heavy. It's, my tendonitis starts flaring up. I'm getting old. But having the long rod, what I prefer to do with them is I pitch it out and let that bait pendulum back and hopefully land. And I'm adjusting it as it's coming back.
Not using the reel. The reel is just line maintenance. You're not casting, nothing. All the reel does is it holds line while you're dropping vertically
I've got
On
rod
this
in
fish.
right hand, line in left hand. And when I set the hook, I'm doing it with both hands and just flipping it in the boat.
And this is where the skill comes in. You're going to learn how to drop on the fish. You're going to learn how to read how far out stuff is. You're going to learn. And like I said, what's the name of your podcast?
Crappie catching.
You're going to learn all this stuff on crappie catching.
Yeah.
We're not going to go into it now, but this is where the bass guys can really learn on how fish react to baits, fish movement, what spooks them, noises in the boat, dropping below fish, fast dropping on fish and spooking them out, watching how fish circle back and reattack a bait, watching what happens when predator fish come into the same screen as where these crappie are. There's all sorts of stuff you can learn, and you will learn it little by little as you go out on the water. How long does it take? Let's say I've never done this before. I'm listening to the show. I've got some of the stuff. I'm a couple $100 in. I'm like, yeah, I think this is going to happen on my lake. How many trips before you're like, there's one, and can go catch it with regularity?
If you already understand forward-facing sonar, if you've been using it, then you can do it in a matter of hours. But if you're really new to everything, to your electronics, boat control, it's so much about boat control. You'll need to spend, 3 good days on the water, and you should start getting the feel for it. I tell the best tip that I can give anybody, if you're bass fisherman, crappie fisherman, you're wanting to start doing this, go to a lake that's got standing timber in it. The reason I like standing timber, you've got something to associate your eyes with above the water and below the water. And so you learn that targeting a lot quicker because you've got a visual above the water to be able to know where you're dropping. Does that make sense?
Yep.
It's so if you got some timber, go start combing it. And like I said, there's still going to be fish in timber this time of year, in the trees. So that'll cut your learning curve way down.
Have we done? I feel like does this make sense to you? What are we missing out here on major elements for the bass guys to be able to do this? Because we kind of talked about if you don't have forward-facing sonar, you use the same rod, except you're dropping on the brush piles. We showed them where to drop on the brush piles, the type of stuff that they need.
We can go a little deeper there.
Yeah.
Non-forward-facing sonar user or folks, spider rigging is huge.
It looks like a nightmare.
It can be if you have a school of sand bass come through. it's a nightmare, but it can be a lot of fun if this is what you want to do. So you're typically in open water or covering the edges of the river channels, the stumps and things, because these crappie a lot of times school up on these stumps. And once you find them, you can work back and forth on that same stump over and over and just catch every fish in the school, spider rigging, or just get in the river channel and go. Explain
what spider rigging is.
Spider rigging is putting multiple rods, typically in rod holders, or always in rod holders, out on the front of your boat. They have T-bars, I think they call them T-bars, but the rod holders. Usually people are doing 8 rods at a time, sitting down.
Legal.
Yes. Yeah. Check your local lake rod limits, however many you can fish with. And you're just slow trolling, pushing baits, jigs, right there, minnows, whatever, pushing baits at about 1 mile an hour, typically 1.2. It's kind of, it can be agonizing, but people love it.
Never had a desire to do that.
No, it's not, like I mentioned earlier, whenever I was about ready to give up crappie fishing before forward-facing sonar came out, I spider rigged, and it just kind of got, it wasn't my favorite thing to do. So, but it's very effective. It's a very effective way to put these fish in the boat, if that's what you desire.
Is there anything else here? I'm kind of itching to get out on the water.
So am I, buddy.
Like I said, I enjoy doing it.
We're good.
I enjoy doing it during this time of the year. It's what I look forward to. And I get, like, I hate that people a lot of people, no one's been asking you what knot you use.
Yeah.
On social media. I'm just saying, like, people are, a lot of people have been asking me, but I do get a lot of people that ask me, help me with this crappie stuff, because I want to catch them. Here's the big thing. This is the biggest thing that oh my God, I can't believe we almost forgot this. Catch and release.
Yeah.
on the Giants.
On the Giants, I let them go.
Anything
over 2 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, typically with
which is
me,
like a 15-inch crappie. 15 and a half, 16-inch, depending on the fishery that you're on.
Typically anything over 175, I'll let go. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I prefer to eat 9 to 11-inch fish. To me, those are the best fillets. When you get in those big, thick 2 and 3 pound fish, the fillets are, you got to cut them up, and you might as well just catch you a mess of, 10 inchers.
Yep.
Fry those suckers up. They're delicious. But these big fish, yeah, man, I'm a believer in genetics in fish. I've talked to biologists about it. Some agree, some don't, because these fish lay so many eggs. But I'm a big believer in genetics, and I want to keep those genetics in the lake for as long as I can. Some people say those fish are older, and you might as well keep them because they've only got a year or 2 left to live anyway. Lifespan of a crappie is only on average 7 years.
Okay.
So, but it takes them typically in most fisheries, it takes a crappie about 4 years typically on average to reach 2 pounds. So those fish are survivors. They're tough. They've been around and they're still producing. So I want to keep them in the lake.
This is a part of the show where you get in trouble. Name off like who you would say if people want to go follow the top crappie guys going right now in the country. Like, just give a few names because
sure.
I don't even know where to go find them. But I mean, that's a great way to start on social media.
Yeah.
And this is obviously subjective in your opinion. You are the tournament director for the American Crappie Trail, which I threw that website up earlier if you guys want information on that. But just in your opinion.
You got Eric Cagle is a guide over Mississippi. Great guy to follow. Good teacher. Jerry Hancock is a legend down on Lake Fork in Texas. And you want to talk about an awesome, I know a lot of your listeners probably fish Fork. Everybody does. Mm-hmm. Take a crappie rod with you next time.
You have to keep them in the winter if you catch them, though.
I think it's January and February.
Yeah, you cannot release them.
Even if you catch a 3-incher, you have to keep it. Yeah. Because it's an old law that I'll say it. I think it needs to be changed. Mm-hmm. Pre-forward facing sonar on Fork, guys were catching crappie, 30, 40 foot deep, and they didn't know how to fizz them and take care of them. And so they made that law that you have to keep your first 25 fish you catch. Now with forward facing sonar on Fork in the wintertime, we're catching them as shallow as 6 foot of water sometimes. So why do I have to keep those fish? But you do. It is a law. Jerry Hancock down on Fork, absolute hammer. Todd Huckabee would definitely be a guy. These are long time guys in the game. Gosh, you got Jeff Larch over in Arkansas. If you're in Arkansas, I'm trying to go states here. If you're in Arkansas, check out Jeff Larch. He's a guide there. Great tournament fisherman.
All right.
Yeah,
that'll work. That'll give people some starting stuff.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're gonna jump out on the water. We went a full hour. It's a good show.
Good show.
If people want to contact you, follow you, ask you questions, are you open to that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Look me up on. I've got a fishing page on Facebook. Hype Man Zeke.
HYPEMAN.
That's it. Hype Man Zeke Fishing. Or just my normal, Facebook page, Zeke Anderson. Yeah, shoot me a message. Happy to talk about it, answer any questions I can.
I greatly appreciate it. It's a tough show to do because it's just like bass fishing. It'd be like you going, "Hey, will you come in and teach these crappie anglers how to bass fish?" And you're like, "What? Wait a second.
I got to go way back.
How do you do this in an hour?"
Yeah.
But I think we did a great job of kind of giving a little starting tips.
Yeah, get started. And like Matt said, I mean, I've got a podcast on Facebook, Crappie Catching. You can learn a lot more there. I interview a lot of the top names in the country.
Tournament results, but you also go deep into tips, tactics, like little nuances and stuff like we do on day 4 and on BTL occasionally.
Exactly.
All right, Zeke Anderson, greatly appreciate it. Tomorrow, day 4 with the man, Frank Scalish, and then I am headed to Lake El Salto. So back-to-back crappie days, day 4, and then El Salto. Heck of a week for me. All right. We'll talk to everybody later. We're headed to the lake. Follow my Instagram, just at Matt Pangrac, for little updates to see how we do on the lake. Basically, it'll be me and Juice watching Zeke master at work. I'm serious. Like, I mean, there's very few things that I don't mind not having a rod in the water. No pressure. I mean, we're going to have fun too. But very interested to see how it goes. So, all right. This has been another edition of BTL Bass Talk Live. Same time, same place tomorrow. See ya.